Hey Raiders fans, welcome back to another video filled with the hottest news surrounding our Las Vegas Raiders. You already know this is the place where passion meets reality when it comes to everything silver and black. Let's jump straight into it, because this story has been buzzing all over social media lately. There's been a lot of noise about Shiloh Sanders and his recent comment about wanting to play for the Las Vegas Raiders. And I've got to be honest with you. As fun as it sounds when a big name throws our team's name into the mix, this one doesn't make sense at all. Not even a little bit. And today, I'm going to break down exactly why bringing Shiloh Sanders to Las Vegas will be one of the worst moves this organization could make right now. Let's rewind for a second. Over the weekend, during ComplexCon in Vegas, Shiloh made a few comments about how he'd love to be part of the Raiders organization. Of course, that clip went viral within minutes, and fans started hitting me up left and right asking whether this could actually happen. But here's the truth. Just because a player says they want to wear the silver and black doesn't mean they belong in that jersey. And when we're talking about Shiloh, the fit just isn't there. Not from a football standpoint, not from a personality standpoint, and definitely not from a locker room culture standpoint. Now, I understand the Raiders need help in the secondary. Let's be real. Our pass defense hasn't exactly been top tier this season. Every week, we talk about the same issue: missed coverages, blown assignments, and the lack of depth at safety. But reaching for a player like Shiloh Sanders isn't the answer. This is a guy who, despite coming from a football family, hasn't shown the talent needed to stick in the league. He's been on and off practice squads, and even with connections to teams like Tampa Bay, he hasn't been able to make an impression strong enough to stay on a 53-man roster. Think about that for a second. If the organization that knew him best didn't keep him, why should the Raiders suddenly take that risk? When you look at what the Raiders are trying to build, it's all about accountability, discipline, and maturity. This team has been through years of inconsistency, and what they need now more than ever are players who bring focus, not drama. The problem with Shiloh is that the off-field noise follows him everywhere he goes. We've all heard the stories at the Big 12 Media Day. People who interacted with him described him as disrespectful and difficult to deal with. One person even said that when asked about his college conference, Shiloh brushed it off, saying he was already an NFL player and didn't care about the Big 12 anymore. That kind of attitude might make headlines, but it doesn't win games. And that's what frustrates me about this whole conversation. The Raiders don't need another distraction. They don't need another personality who's chasing cameras instead of chasing interceptions. They need players who are ready to grind, who care about the team first and not their personal spotlight. Shiloh, unfortunately, doesn't give off that energy. He's not producing on the field, yet he keeps finding ways to keep his name in the headlines. It almost feels like he's more interested in staying relevant than in earning a roster spot through hard work and consistency. Now, before anyone jumps in saying, but his brother Shadur is a legit prospect. Yes, Shadur can play. His father, Dion, is one of the greatest to ever do it. Nobody's denying that the Sanders family has football greatness running through their veins. But being part of that lineage doesn't automatically make you NFL ready. Shiloh might carry the Sanders name, but he doesn't carry the same level of talent, drive, or professionalism that his father and brother have displayed. And let's not forget, this Raiders locker room is finally starting to find some rhythm under its current leadership. Why would you risk that chemistry for a player who's proven more interested in attention than in production? It's also worth mentioning how this move would play out publicly. Bringing in Shiloh would turn the Raiders into a media circus overnight. Suddenly, every conversation wouldn't be about the next game plan or how to fix the secondary. It would be about the Sanders family. Cameras would be hovering, reporters would be asking unnecessary questions, and the focus would shift from football to fame. That's not what this team needs right now. The Raiders are trying to rebuild a culture based on effort, team unity, and accountability. Bringing in someone who thrives on off-field attention would completely derail that progress. I saw a clip recently where Shiloh literally dressed up as his brother Shadur just for social media buzz. That tells you everything about where his priorities lie. Instead of putting his energy into training or improving his game, he's focused on staying visible. And then, to top it off, at the same ComplexCon event, he was seen chasing after a celebrity, joking about how she didn't recognize who he was. Again, That's not the kind of mindset you want in a professional locker room. The Raiders need hungry players, guys who wake up every morning determined to prove themselves, not individuals who rely on their last name or social clout to stay relevant. Let's not forget where this team stands right now. Sitting at 2 wins and 5 losses, the Raiders have no time for distractions. The focus has to be on improving execution, staying healthy, and building trust between the coaches and players. Every move from here on out needs to serve one goal: winning football games. Signing Shiloh Sanders does the complete opposite. It adds noise, invites drama, and does nothing to help this defense take the next step forward. And even if we entertain the idea from a pure football perspective, the fit still doesn't work. If you're going to bring in a safety midseason, it has to be someone who can immediately contribute, someone who can play in different packages, bring versatility, and understand complex defensive schemes. Shiloh hasn't shown he can do any of that. Players like Lonnie Johnson Jr. have proven to be better options, not just because of their skill set, but also because of their professionalism and connection with the current coaching staff. So why even consider a player who wouldn't make your practice squad, let alone your active roster? Here's the bigger issue. Bringing in Shiloh would create unnecessary pressure and expectations. Because the moment you sign him, people start asking, well, what about Shedeur? That's the reality of the media world we live in. You sign one Sanders, suddenly everyone expects the other to follow. And next thing you know, you've got a full-blown distraction on your hands. Instead of focusing on improving the team, you're answering questions about family ties and future hypotheticals. The Raiders don't need that kind of noise in their building. They've already been through enough ups and downs, and stability is what they should be chasing, not headlines. So, when you really break it down, this whole idea of signing Shiloh Sanders is nothing more than smoke and mirrors. It sounds flashy, it gets people talking, but at the end of the day, it doesn't move the Raiders forward. It doesn't fix the defense, it doesn't boost the roster, and it doesn't align with what this franchise is trying to become. Raiders Nation deserves better than a PR stunt. What we want is a team that earns respect through performance, not publicity. Now, here's where things get even clearer, Raiders fans. Let's look at the bigger picture, because when you strip away the hype and emotion, this whole Shiloh Sanders situation is nothing but a distraction dressed up as opportunity. The Las Vegas Raiders don't need a headline. They need consistency, leadership, and production. Right now, every player wearing that silver and black uniform should be locked in on one goal: restoring pride and winning football games. Adding someone who has more off-field buzz than on-field value goes against everything this new culture is trying to build. When you think about what kind of players this team needs, they're the grinders, the ones who stay late in the film room, the ones who play through pain and show up every single Sunday with that chip on their shoulder. Guys like Max Crosby, who leads by example, who turns energy into results. Shiloh Sanders doesn't fit that mold. He's not that kind of player, and the film doesn't lie. Whether it was at Colorado or during his short NFL stints, there's just not enough there to justify giving him another shot, especially on a team that's desperately trying to avoid unnecessary drama. The truth is, football at this level is about more than just athleticism. It's about attitude, work ethic, and how you represent the badge on your helmet. Shiloh has shown flashes of potential, sure, but flashes don't win championships. Consistency does. You can't come into a locker room filled with men who fought for every inch of their careers and act like the NFL owes you something because of your last name. That doesn't sit right with veterans, and it doesn't sit right with fans who have watched this team battle through years of frustration. Raiders fans want effort, not entitlement. And let's be honest, this team has been doing everything it can to shake off that old narrative of dysfunction. The Raiders have spent the offseason building an identity, focusing on chemistry, and trying to unify a roster that has seen way too many coaching changes and player turnover. If you bring in someone like Shiloh, who comes with cameras and controversy attached, you're taking a step backward. You're reopening wounds this franchise has worked hard to close. The last thing Antonio Pierce and his staff need is a new storyline that has nothing to do with football. What's even more concerning is how easily this move could snowball into something bigger. Because the minute you sign Shiloh, people start asking about Shedeur, and then Dion's name gets brought into every Raiders discussion. Suddenly, your locker room turns into a constant press conference about someone who isn't even on the team. The players who are grinding day in and day out get overshadowed by a family name. And that's not fair to them. It's not fair to the guys who are actually putting in the work to earn their spots and make a difference on the field. From a business perspective, sure, there will be buzz. The name Sanders brings clicks, views, and social media traction. But that's short-term noise. Real success in this league comes from discipline, not drama. The Raiders have already lived through their fair share of sideshows. Antonio Brown, Josh McDaniels' chaos, locker room controversies, and every single one of them set the team back. They can't afford another off-field spectacle. Not now, when they're trying to finally build something sustainable. And even if Shiloh came in purely as a depth piece, you have to ask yourself, what's the upside? He's not a proven special teams asset. He's not a coverage upgrade, and he hasn't shown an ability to stay consistent. There are dozens of free agents out there who would bring more value without the baggage. Players who may not trend online, but would help stabilize the defense and earn respect quietly, the way professionals do. Those are the kinds of players the Raiders should be targeting, not someone who turns the locker room into a reality show. The comparison people keep making between the Sanders family and the Kardashians isn't far off. It's all about the spotlight, the fame, the attention. And while that's great for clicks, it doesn't help a 2-5 football team win games. The Raiders don't need another storyline. They need results. They need guys who play for each other, who want to make a difference between the whistles, not in front of a camera lens. Another big part of this conversation is respect. When you come into a professional environment, especially one like Las Vegas that's been trying to build back its reputation, you've got to show respect for the process. From the stories that came out of the Big 12 Media Day, it's clear that Shiloh hasn't fully grasped what it means to represent himself as a professional. Talking down to media members and acting as if college no longer mattered might sound confident, but it comes off as arrogance. Confidence earns respect. Arrogance destroys it. The Raiders' locker room doesn't need that kind of energy. They've already got leaders who are trying to steer the ship in the right direction, and they can't have someone come in and throw off that balance. Every NFL team preaches culture, but for the Raiders, it's not just talk, it's survival. When you've spent years being labeled as undisciplined or chaotic, culture becomes your foundation. And when you're trying to build that foundation, the last thing you want to do is shake it by adding a personality that doesn't fit. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on our Las Vegas Raiders. And don't be shy. Drop your thoughts on the news in the comments below. The NFL rumor mill is buzzing, and it centers on one name, Tristan WIRFS. The Buccaneers' All-Pro left tackle has been quietly making headlines, but now whispers suggest the Raiders might be stepping into the picture in a move that could shake the league. According to sources close to team insiders, the Raiders are reportedly taking aggressive measures to lock down a quarterback, and it appears WIRFS could be the linchpin of that strategy. WIRFS, known for his combination of brute strength, agility, and impeccable technique, has long been regarded as one of the league's premier offensive tackles. Any quarterback would be fortunate to have him in front of them, and the Raiders' supposed interest signals a major intent. They're not just looking to tinker with their offensive line, they're aiming to build a fortress around their signal caller. While nothing is official, the mere suggestion that a franchise like Las Vegas is making moves to secure an all-pro like WIRFS has already sent shockwave through the rumor networks and social media circles. Analysts have been speculating for weeks that the Raiders would make big splashes this offseason. And if the WIRFS rumor holds any water, it confirms a trend toward high-profile acquisitions to bolster protection and maximize offensive efficiency. There's talk that the team's front office has made preliminary overtures, emphasizing that their quarterback deserves the best pocket possible. Fans are, understandably, already imagining a lineup where the quarterback is effectively untouchable thanks to WIRFS' presence. Of course, the NFL rumor ecosystem is notoriously fluid. Deals can rise and fall in a matter of hours, and negotiations are rarely transparent. Yet, insiders insist the Raiders' interest is genuine, with the all-pro tackle reportedly being central to their vision for the next season. If the whispers are true, it's not just a signing, it's a statement. One thing is certain: wherever Tristan Wirfs lands, the league will be watching, because a player of his caliber doesn't just change a team, he changes the conversation. Stay tuned. This story is far from over, and the Raiders' alleged pursuit of Wirfs could become one of the most talked about sagas in the NFL offseason. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Las Vegas Raiders, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.